Hey, so I haven't talked much about this in a while. I made a video the other day about getting out of your own way, and I talk a lot about getting out of your own way. This can be something that's really, really hard to do. And I was saying in I don't know, one of the recent videos that, it's really easy to get out of your own way in some areas, the areas of your life that don't really matter to you. But if you have a big one in your life, like I do, I had kind of two big central themes. When you have something like that, those are the areas where you feel like you have to continue to control things the most. If you got a couple big areas, usually if you have a big theme, you haven't been super successful in that area, or if you have, you haven't enjoyed it at all because it's so important to you, or maybe you've gotten it and then you've lost it, and then you've gotten it again and then you've lost it. And so in these areas, it's like in the very thing that you need to be doing the most is the thing that's too terrifying for you to be able to do, because you have this perception that if you don't involve yourself, if you don't monitor closely, if you don't try to figure it out and plan stuff and be actively involved, then something bad will happen. And since it's in such an important area of your life, then, maybe you'll die. Maybe it'll be so horrifying that your life will have been meaningless and you just need a do-over. That's kind of like the underlying feeling about these areas of your life that are really important to you. And I wanted to talk about this. I wanted to just point something out about myself that if you've been watching my channel, I just want to kind of back this up with some obvious shit that wasn't obvious to me, totally. But, I haven't talked about this thing for myself personally all that much in a while because it's dropped so much in importance that I don't even think about it really anymore. But, in these recent videos, I've been talking about how getting in your own way with the manifestation of something, with just letting something flow to you, is generally all those things I just talked about. It's not being able to say to yourself, how this happens is not the part of this that's my business. The part of this that's my business is defining the goal, defining the desire, and then giving it to divine intelligence to coordinate and bring to me. And not to constantly think about how I don't have it. That's a big thing about getting in your way. Constantly observing that something is wrong with it and allowing your mind to be there and to think about it. Having a bad feeling about it all the time. I mean, you have to be careful here. If you don't have something, it's one of these things. One of these things is the reason that it's not just flowing right to you. And so anyway, I made a video about that. I think that was one of the last couple videos I made, but I wanted to just give this personal example. So for those of you who are new to this channel, when I first started making this channel, I was pretty much in my ideal physical shape. Getting into my ideal physical shape was nearly an obsession for, I would say, 25 years. I would say from the time I was about 12 until the time I was 38. It was almost, I thought about almost nothing else every single day. And I had all kinds of plans for doing it. I could never get out of my way to do it. I couldn't do it. I couldn't, the plans that I made in the 3D were just unable to be acted on. I couldn't get into the right frame of mind to allow that to happen. And the reasons for that are many and varied and outside the scope of what I want to talk about here. I'm sure I've talked about all of it somewhere on this channel, probably towards the beginning. But finally, when I was 38, I had a moment of reckoning, and I looked around my life and I said, wow, I'm amazingly successful. I built this business from scratch. It's exactly how, I am a creator. I can do things. I did this thing. Look at what I did. And I looked around my life at everything else. And I just said, wow, the thing that really sticks out here as not making sense is the fact that I weigh 195 pounds and that I'm not, able, like I have these intentions, plans to do this thing in the 3D world, and I can't do it. I can't make it happen. Like, this is the thing that's the farce here. It's not that I'm so successful in these other ways. It's that I'm not successful in this area. And I had this, it's getting to be kind of distant now. That was 7 years ago. And I had this moment where I just realized I can absolutely do this. This is insane. Like, all these ideas, like, I'm cursed. I'm just supposed to be this way. I'll never be able to, whatever my many ideas about, why things weren't happening, why I wasn't successful, all those ideas just kind of like were gone in an instant. I was just like, that is a total illusion. That stuff is not real. It's not true. What is true is that I can pretty much do anything. I can do anything. So of course I can do this. And in that moment, like, that mental shift for me was enormous. And in that moment, I knew it was like an equation, 1 + 1 = 2. I knew that this thing that I had wanted for so long, plus this understanding that I could absolutely do it, would equal me doing it. And that is exactly what I did. Basically, straight line down from that day. What I did was, I did what I knew to do. I started exercising a ton, which I kind of liked to do anyway. I knew I could do it. In the past, while I was fat, I was like doing tons of exercise. I'd walk like 3 miles, 6 miles, just like, in attempts to get something to work. I had done tons of exercise. And I was also pretty active with my business. So I wasn't like lazy. That wasn't something I needed to overcome. I just was like, okay, I'm going to do this. I know to do this. And I'm going to stop doing this other thing, which is indulging in eating all this garbage. Like, I'm just going to put myself on a reasonable, restrictive diet. And I am just going to discipline my way through it because I can do it. I know I can. I've done this other amazing thing that took a lot of discipline, it took a lot of character growth. I've grown the character. I can do this. It was just, it was not that difficult to make it happen. And the experience of it, though, was not super pleasant. It had a lot of moments where I was very uncomfortable. It was basically like flying quickly into the unknown. And it was, in my memory, I don't like it. When I think back about that experience, I'm not like, wow, what an amazing experience that was, the way I am when I think about building my business. I'm like, ooh, that was really uncomfortable, and I really don't want to do that again. But so I got basically into my ideal physical shape. I started making this YouTube channel, and about 6 months after I started making this YouTube channel, I had been exploring all of these Neville Goddard ideas, the science of getting rich, talking about it here pretty much daily, interacting with people, and more, it became clear to me that the remaining aspect of my life that was really uncomfortable for me wasn't relationships. That was my other big theme. That had kind of resolved itself already. But I realized, I still have all these judgments about my body, myself physically. As much as I know intellectually certain things, like, I still feel like my worth as a woman is nearly 100% based on the outer. I'm still terrified of regaining weight. Like, there had been COVID lockdown, which disrupted my whole routine that was keeping me sort of on track with the whole thing. Like, I had a routine I really liked, going to the gym, doing stuff. I go here to get a drink, I go here to get lunch, and I just sort of had this thing. I didn't have to think about it, and it was easily maintaining me in this ideal physical form. And that got all disrupted by COVID. And so I weighed like 115 pounds. My friend Steve came to stay with me during lockdown. He was I assume is still a phenomenal cook. And he just, he was like, that was one of the big things we were doing, we were cooking and eating in general. And one morning, I got up and weighed myself, and I think I weighed 119. And I just was like crushed to be seeing this number go up from 115 to 119. No gentle treatment of myself, no sort of like awareness that the situation was very, difficult to navigate at that time. It was kind of scary. And I also had my friend staying with me, and, it was just like, there was no like gentle, this is okay. It was so not okay. I was like sitting in my bed, 119 pounds, just like crying at what was happening. Steve came in and like comforted me and stuff, but that's where I was mentally with the weight at that time. And then it continued to go up. And I was like, when I met Matt, in August of that year, which was after the thing I'm about to talk about, I was back up to like almost 130. Anyway, I'll get to that in a minute, but I became aware during all those experiences how many perceptions I had about this issue that were still like wildly off, even though I had the outer 3D manifestation basically nearly exactly the way I wanted it to be. I could have lost 5 more pounds. I could have, worked out a little more and had a more muscular body. I was pretty scrawny. I'm only 5'3", so, but that wasn't a problem for me. I didn't mind being small. But things could have been a little better, but they were pretty close to as good as they could be. And so the fact that this was still such a mental issue began to become really clear. And I made an intention. I was talking about something on a video here, and I just said, this area of my life's really screwed up, and I've been trying to manage it. I was like becoming aware of this. I keep trying to manage this. I keep trying to plan this. And I keep taking all the responsibility for this onto myself in this little puny human form. And I can't believe I've really like missed it, that I need to make an intention about this and give it up and let divine intelligence do its thing. And so I made that intention on that video. And as many of you know, then over the next 6 months, a whole bunch of shit occurred. I met my fiance, Matt, who helped in many ways with that stuff. Part of it, I still had this idea of like, could somebody love me? I don't know. And him showing up and loving me in my near ideal state really wasn't like some big, I guess I had some weird fear that like there was something horribly flawed about me physically. So that kind of removed that forever. I don't know. I just sort of woke up and just said, what, you're an idiot. Like, of course that's not a problem. Ridiculous. So that sort of disappeared thanks to just having that experience with Matt. And I don't think that'll ever return again. Even in my current physical state, that's not the same. I don't have that same sort of like timid, I don't know, like seeking approval type of fear about that. It just doesn't really matter to me at this point. But he helped with that for sure. Then all kinds of shit went down with my dad, and I had the weirdest experience. There was a point in that whole process down at my dad's while he was dying. Basically, I didn't engage in any kind of emotional eating behavior during that time. And there was just this really memorable moment where I made the choice to do the bad thing. There is a specific food that I don't ever eat because it is just like a drug or something. If I have it once, I want it every day. It is an Oreo Blizzard from Dairy Queen. I don't know what it is about that food. I swear to God, they do something to it. I can eat other ice cream and I don't need to have ice cream every day, but there's something about Dairy Queen. Dairy Queen is also heavily associated with my dad. He used to take us to Dairy Queen when we were kids, like once a week or something. And so I don't know what that was, but I just knew if I did this thing, I was like, if I do this thing, it's going to be bad. Like, I'm going to go down a bad road if I do this. And I was like, I'm doing it. Why would you do that? You know what I mean? Why make that choice? I don't know why that came up and why I did it. And then there was like 6 months after that, after my dad died, there was like 6 months where I would say to Matt, I don't want to eat anything. I'm not hungry. This food doesn't sound good. This like garbage food, like an Oreo Blizzard, this doesn't sound good. It's 7 o'clock. I have this feeling. I just have this like anxious, shitty feeling that I know in an hour I'm going to go deal with by eating a bunch of garbage. I was just like, it was like I was the observer and I was watching in horror as my worst nightmare played out in front of me. Because, like I was saying, this perception that I had of my worth being related to my weight and all that other stuff that had been articulated in this video, 6 months before that, where I made this intention. I even said in this intention, I would rather be fat and free from this mental prison. If I have to be fat to be free of this mental prison, so be it. I don't want to be. I hope that's not what's required, but that's how far I'm willing to go. Higher self universe knows how much I do not want to be fat. Like how my whole life has had this focal point of not wanting to be fat. But I'm drawing a line in the sand here. I care about the mentality of this more than I care about the physical manifestation. I know that the mental creates the physical, so I'm willing to say that what I want is not to be a skinny person. What I want is to be out of this mental prison. It was very strong, feels very strong right now as I'm saying it. I've held true to that for sure over the last 4 years. And so I was saying to Matt as this stuff was going down, as he was very kindly and lovingly watching me gain 30 pounds, I was just like, this is the most bizarre and horrifying thing ever. I'm watching the thing that is the most horrifying thing in the world that I can imagine happening from this vantage point of being in my ideal weight, where from this vantage point of crying when I gained 3 pounds, and went from 116 to 119, this is the worst case scenario that's happening right now. I have no control over it. I don't know where it stops. And I don't want to be doing it. It's like I'm standing outside myself observing it. And thankfully, at a few key moments during that thing, which took, that was from February until July of 2021. Thankfully, a few times during that, I stepped back and I said, I really and strongly intended to be out of this mental prison. And this must be a part of it. This must be a part of it. I tried as hard as I could to go with it. I tried and failed miserably. I would say 99% failure to get out of the way. When your worst nightmare is happening, it is so difficult to say, I'm just going to let this happen because this must be a part of it. And I really kind of failed at that a lot. I did a lot of resisting. I did a lot of judging myself for this behavior that was happening that I really didn't feel like I almost had anything to do with. It wasn't something I wanted. It didn't make me feel better either. That was the thing. It was like some entity took over me and made me gain 30 pounds, while I watched in horror. That's what this experience felt like. And then once it kind of it just leveled out and went away. That was the craziest thing about it. It just stopped. At some point, Matt and I got engaged that summer, and it just stopped. No resistance, no I want to keep doing this, but I'm not, I'm going to force myself to stop. Just I didn't want to be doing it and I couldn't not do it. It just it left me. It was something overtook me, overrode all of the new thought patterns I had, overrode all of the horror that would normally, drive me into action or make me, it was the most bizarre manifestation experience I've ever had. So that was 2021. That was, almost 4 years ago. In the meantime, pause, because I have to say that, like, I really think if you can get good at not resisting, and if you can get good at dealing with your fear that what's happening is bad, you know, if you can get good, I mean, this is really the key to everything. If you can get good at having faith and trusting in this loving presence, this divine intelligence, I think things can happen so fast. And I think you can avoid having to go through things in a longer and more painful way than you might have needed to otherwise. It was a really big issue in my life. And so I think that this long, drawn out, painful thing that I had to go through was just almost inevitable. I'm not sure how much better I could have done, because I really tried to, like, not get in my own way. But for the last, like, 3 years, I would say up until probably about December, I've increasingly stopped resisting being in this physical state. I would say next to nothing. Of course, I can't remember every little thing that happened, but I would say from summer of 2021 to summer of 2022, 2022, almost nothing of any value happened, because it was just me being angry, blaming myself for having done this thing to myself. Really just, like, I was so pissed. I was pissed off at Matt for supporting me in that, which is so sad. I've apologized to him for that, I think. I think we're all good about that. I didn't, like, yell at him all the time or anything, but a couple times I was just like, you know, I'm really mad at you for contributing to this. Like, I really wish you would have encouraged me not to do stuff, instead of just saying, yeah, I'm right there with you about, you know, all this behavior that I did. Like, anytime I wanted to go out and have, like, a horrible meal at a restaurant, Matt was like, sure, let's go. There was a lot of times where I kind of blamed him, and I was just like, God, why didn't you just say, like, maybe we shouldn't do that? And then I probably wouldn't have done it, which is true. But, you know, it would have found another way, I think, because this thing had to happen. So, like, I was mad at Matt sometimes, but 1% of the time. 99% of the time, I was super pissed off at myself and judging myself. And then I reached a point, I think I made a video about this, and I'm pretty sure this was in 2022. By the way, that year I also had an interesting experience. I used to get filler around my eyes, which it's hard to, it doesn't look like I need it, and I probably don't really need it, but it doesn't look like I need it in these videos. But there's something about the angle and the lighting and stuff, the outer lighting shining, I don't know. It doesn't look like I really need it, but I was still very, like, much feeling like really shitty about the idea of aging and, you know, getting this filler around my eyes, which I would go get, like, a touch up every 6 months. That to me made this huge difference to my appearance. To me, it made me feel like I looked a lot younger than I am. I'm 45. I don't know. I was really attached to this filler that I was getting, and the plastic surgeon that was doing it for me retired. And he was like, this is the last time I'm going to do this for you. It's going to be people that I've trained now. It's going to be like people at a med spa. He's like, we're opening a med spa, and these people are going to do this from now on. And I went to go get the touch up from the new people, and they, like, refused to do it. It was the most bizarre thing. They, like, wouldn't do it. They're like, you don't need any more filler. And I was like, you know, the plastic surgeon, he would do, like, I'd be like, I see, like, a little, you know, there's, like, a little pouch right here, you know, like, whatever. He would just, like, go in hand with a syringe and, like, fill in these little areas, and it made a difference to me, you know, which is really all that matters, I think. And these people just, like, wouldn't do it. These, like, younger girls, like, around my age, a little younger. They were like, no, you know, they were suggesting these other procedures, and I was like, I don't need that, you know, like, people are just, like, kind of scumbags. And when I realized, like, I couldn't get that filler anymore, I had this one night where I was just, like, despondent. It's like the weight of how much my well-being was resting on my appearance kind of came crashing down, and I was at the same time totally despondent and depressed, like I want to kill myself. And at the same time I was like, wow, this is pathetic. Like, this is where I'm at with this whole thing, you know. And in that moment, it was just a total rejection of, you know, continuing to live that way. I was just like, no, no, I'm not living like this anymore. And I kind of popped out of that depression, as I do. It's like anytime I personally hit that rock bottom place, it really sucks. But at least in the back of my mind, I know this is leading to a major like rebirth tomorrow. And it did. And I was just like, this has to stop. And that was a turning point also in the weight thing. From mid 2022 to mid 2024, the amount of mental change that happened with how I was talking to myself about things, you know, I would go to take an action. I realized that I always berated myself if I enjoyed a meal. If Matt and I went out somewhere and had a dinner, there was always this thing disgusted with me, you know, and I started getting really kind of pissed off at whatever that thing was and sort of defensive of myself to this aspect of my personality. And I just started fighting back against it over and over again, over and over. I mean, these things would come up daily. And I would say that 2-year period was where all of the change happened. So it took at least a year of being in my own way before the things, you know, all the stuff that needed to change could start to change. And it was a matter of just correcting things constantly, which was not exhausting. It was awesome because all of this bad shit was leaving me. Just little by little by little. Busting loose from the money game helped with that. The process from that helped with that a lot. I had a period of like a month where I did that with, I mean, intensively with all the stuff that would come up around that stuff. And it was tremendously helpful. But then it would just be like becoming aware of things. Like, I would like go to engage in some shit behavior with food or something. I would be like, I'm going to eat this garbage tonight. And there would be this voice or something that would be like, you know what? Fine. If you're going to eat that, fine. But tomorrow you have to do X, Y, Z. And this thing would come up over it, like every time. I've heard that voice a million times. And I just started saying, you know what? The truth is, I don't have to do anything. I can eat this garbage right now, and I can get up tomorrow, and I can do it again tomorrow night if I want. I don't have to do anything. There's no obligation for me to look some certain way. You know, it's kind of this indignant, just like this response, this balancing rebuttal to whatever this voice was saying. And as of right now, it's February of 2025. That voice is gone. Like, that thing was responsible for 95% of the disruptions to my peace in my life, and it's gone. And it came through constant daily awareness and repetition to correct it, which only in this physical state would I have been able to do that, I think. I don't know. Maybe I could have done it at a lower weight with the things that were coming up at that weight. I don't know. I just assume that this is perfect, you know? I don't know how I would have addressed those particular things at a lower weight where I was still seeing an image that was more in line with this delusion of need that I had. And so another thing, by the way, this was so obvious to me. Oh my God, when this happened, a cousin of mine got married at the end of 2023. And there was a big event. I was super excited about attending it. And it was like all of my family was going to be there. People I haven't seen in 20 years. Everybody. Like my dad's whole side of the family that I hadn't seen. Many of them I had seen when he died, around the time he died. But there were several male members of the family that I haven't seen since I was like 22 years old. And I was so like annoyed. You know, I kept thinking, God, why couldn't I just be like seeing these people when I was in a better physical state? Like, why now? Why do I have to basically have this outward appearance that makes it look like nothing in me has changed? Or, you know, it's like these ideas it was just like, oh, you know, same thing when I saw friends, a bunch of like my childhood best friend and her family. I hadn't seen them in like 20 years either. And there was a big tragedy in 2023, I think. And I ended up seeing all of them. I was like, dude, they have just experienced this horrible tragedy. And here I am thinking about how I wish I, you know, looked better. As if anyone gives a shit, you know, as if any of these people care. Like they have just, this huge tragedy has just happened to them. And I'm sitting here thinking about this. Like that was a big wake up moment for me. That was a big reorientation. Same thing with this wedding. I kept, you know, there were some formal events that were going to happen and I had to get clothing for it in my current physical state. And I'm not like super fat or anything anyways. It's like, you know, I had to just come to this realization that I'm making so much out of something that isn't a big deal. Nobody even cares. Nobody outside of me even thinks about me most of the time. They don't give a shit. Like this is, I'm in prison for no reason. And then also, you know, it brought to my attention, like how much the idea of the judgment of the male members of my family, my dad, my brother, all of these other people, how much of that had shaped this issue for me. There was a lot of it there. And I just thought, wow, this wedding, it was for a very young family member, by the way. I just thought, this is weird. It's strange that this is even happening. And it's strange that it's happening at this time. It's strange that it's happening in this time of my mental evolution about this problem. It was like the exact thing that needed to show up to clear all this other bullshit out. You know, I had this, I just had all these like, I kind of existed in this very tense state of how am I going to be acceptable to these people, like below the conscious level. Like I just started acting automatically, you know, trying to find clothes for this thing and like all this stuff and thinking, what are they going to think of me? What are they going to think of me? And at some point I came to and I was like, who fucking cares? Oh my God, look at this stupid thing that has been running my life for the last 3 weeks. This idea that like the opinion of these people matters. It doesn't. Not only that, but it's like, why do I need to be attractive to like 60-year-old cousins of mine? Why is that important to me? Who fucking cares? Like the superficial nature of my idea of relationships was just coming to the forefront, you know? And that I think is something that I'm still dealing with. It's like this thing's not completely over yet, but I would say as of about maybe October of last year, I started thinking, you know, I really think the bulk of the mental shifts that have needed to happen have happened. But I'm still sitting here in this physical state that I don't really like. And I was like, well, why is that? You know, okay, well, I'm really busy at work all the time. Like it's very difficult for me to worry about food at work. You know what I mean? It's just like, I'm really into working on this business now. And all year last year, I was also filling my mind with content that was making me feel even more like I needed to be working and accumulating as much as I could now before like some major financial global disaster happens. So that was another factor that was causing a lot of stress. And I was like, well, you know, I'm a person who like, I don't come home and have a drink at the end of the day. You know, I'm a person, I come home and have, you know, guacamole. So it's like, I'm like, okay, well, you know, stress is a source of this behavior. Being too busy is definitely leaving no room for any kind of feeling like, you know, all this all this stuff was just kind of swirling around. I was like, well, I think it's time for the outer manifestation to start to happen. What do I do? Like, I was like, okay, do I need to reinforce that I want that? I really don't, because could it be a bigger desire that is known? It's basically been the central theme of my life. And I was like, well, I'm glad to be free of the negative aspects of almost all of this. I think probably now I need to do some of this changing in a different physical form, because if the end goal is going to be me being in the ideal physical form I want to be in, while also having the ideal mentality about it, getting into the ideal physical form is going to have to be a part of that. And I just kind of was like, okay, I think it's time for that. I think I'm intending for that without that being some kind of burning, horrible, judging need. I still want it. I think I'm ready to do that. I'd felt a lot of resistance over the past 3 years to doing anything, to curbing any kind of food. I was like, I don't want to diet. I don't want that to be a part of that needs to stop for a while. I don't want to exercise a lot. It's like, okay, I don't feel that resistance there anymore to whatever form this needs to take. If it needs to take me going through an uncomfortable period of like dieting and working out again, which I already did, a lot of work doing this. I don't want to do it again, but if I have to, that is generally how people lose weight. Okay, I don't feel this big resistance to that. That was probably like October. And, I just couldn't get rid of this intense need to be working all the time. And so if you look at what happened, I've talked about it here, and it's starting to make sense a lot now. Some things started to happen in December. First of all, I felt this gigantic surge of energy. And I had also, like for the whole month of December, been feeling more and more disgusted at the idea of eating processed garbage food. Like I was feeling this huge draw that's seemingly beyond me. I wasn't making it happen. I didn't read something and then, go, oh, I need to do this. It was just like all of a sudden I was just like, this food is not appetizing. I want to have better food, but I don't know how to do that because I'm so busy, blah, blah. And then like, it just kind of came to me that I was sort of being dumb by not cooking at work because I have tons of energy in the morning. I can make food in the crock pot. It doesn't take almost any effort. And I can do this at work. Who cares? Like, 'cause I think I had like ideas like, oh, it's going to make like the products smell like food and that's bad. Or, it's too gross and the office is too dirty. I don't want to make food there. It just seems repulsive. All of a sudden these things were just like, seem dumb. It's like, of course I can cook in the office. No, it's not going to make everything smell. Who cares? Who cares? Okay, so somebody gets their product. It smells like pot roast. They'll probably just go make a pot roast because it smells so good. But all these objections that I'd had just left. And I just started doing it without even really thinking about it. I started just cooking all the time. Good stuff. And then all of a sudden, I decided to get in my own way. I was like, this isn't happening fast enough. I don't remember what made me feel this way. I was like, I'm eating too much. This isn't happening fast enough. I'm fighting two battles at once. I'm trying to make two things happen at once. I'm trying to lose weight. I'm trying to do this and failing. I'm trying to do this thing and failing. And the trying was the whole problem in the first place. And so this stuff all came to a big, disgusting head, 10 days ago or whatever it was now, where I had to get this giant slap in the face via this weird incident, which now, I feel like the creation of this incident, which was somebody from the gym that I was trying to avoid showing up in this random location at this random time. It was the creation of that I needed to shock me enough to get me to see that a bunch of things needed to change. And one of the big things that needed to change was work, because it was causing all of this stress. And it was supported by a bunch of ideas that were also scarcity, insecurity, all these things that create this feeling in me of anxiety that is just like, for me, this underlying sense of something bad's about to happen is the thing that makes me uncontrollably eat stuff just like all day. I'm not somebody who likes to be like really full. I'm not a binge eater. So for me, it's just like every time the anxiety comes up, you just like eat something. You eat a Star-Kissed tuna salad kit. I don't even like eat that much garbage really, except for at night. It was just like this big shocker, this big thing that just slapped me silly. And looking at this situation now, you know, it's pretty clear to me that I still feel like I have to be responsible for it. It still feels like something I'm going to have to take charge of and do. I'm going to have to be the general contractor for this thing. I'm going to have to force myself to do things. I'm going to have to have that unpleasant feeling of doing something you really don't want to do, which is different from wanting to do something and then doing it even though you don't want to. Totally different feeling. You know, I've had this huge resistance to approaching everything the way that I approached it in 2018 because that was coming from the wrong mentality. And I've spent so much time thinking about this, toiling about it, coming up with plans that I intend to do, that I don't do, just the absolute opposite of what you need to do. And it is truly one of the most difficult and terrifying things I've personally ever had to do to get to the point now where I'm like, I have to let this go, and the how is not my business. In fact, every time I try to plan something here, I'm basically taking 2 steps backward. I didn't have to try hard to figure out how to get some better food choices into my life. And I didn't have to force myself intellectually to be drawn to doing this thing that would seem to be a part of the overall solution, right? If I want to be in my ideal state and my ideal mental attitude about things, I'm guessing that will involve eating, I'm guessing that will involve eating decent food most of the time. Probably not a ton of it, and not freaking out when I do eat something outside of that, you know, like a normal person, like a normal healthy person, which is the whole idea. I didn't have to try to make those things happen, but what happened? I saw an outer result that I didn't like, which was that I was kind of eating a lot. I was just sort of eating whatever I wanted because I was very busy at work, very busy in January. I was just not even, my mind wasn't even on it. And I was just kind of like eating what I wanted. And I was like, I'm not getting anywhere. Nothing's happening. I still weigh the same as I did at the beginning of the month. I could have been dieting. I could have been, I've got this healthy food. I could have been restricting how much of it I ate. I just like had this, I'm like, no, I have to do something about this. This isn't working. The 3D isn't conforming, even though it was. And so I got in there and fucked it all up, which is fine, because who cares? All you got to do is become aware of it and don't do it again, or try not to do it again. But I just wanted to talk about this because it's such a classic example of getting in your own way. Like, this is, in the area of your life where you're not making any progress, you're almost definitely trying to run the whole thing. And nobody said this was easy. I mean, a lot of people say this is easy, actually, but nobody who isn't trying to sell you a $300 online specific person course is going to tell you that you're going to breeze through every single one of these things, because there's a lot of psychology behind it. And I don't know, this is the real world translation of what this looks like. And I just wanted to make a video about this because while my face is still kind of chubby, because I know it won't be. If I can stop doing this, I know, whatever. I mean, this stuff is so reliable. It's like, I'm not really sure why there is this need there to hang on to these things. I think really these big central life themes, they really are just like a giant mask. You know, they're a giant distraction so that you don't have to actually deal with the nature of reality. It's something that you can put your attention on and have this, have this theme running through your life. I got to focus on this and fix this thing. This is the thing when it's fixed that's going to give me all the meaning in my life. I really think these things exist because when they're not there, you have to really start dealing with just the core underlying fear that is under everything in this illusion. But I wanted to make this video while I'm still sitting in my in the state of not having the outer external reality. I think it carries more weight when you actually see somebody talking through things and then you actually see before your eyes how things change. And I'm certain that will happen here. Just like for the first 7 months on this channel, I was like, my romantic fulfillment's a done deal. I know that, I'm certain about that. And I had like things going on in my 3D that I would talk about here. I'd get people commenting and saying, you failed, you were supposed to do this, you failed. And then boom, Matt just showed up out of nowhere without me even having to lift a finger, basically immediately, or I was able to perceive him immediately when I had made a bunch of mental shifts that I was talking about on the channel. And that was really gratifying for me. I was really happy about that because I know because people told me that was really hopeful for them. And I think you need to see that. What are you going to do? Like sit in your bedroom quietly reading about manifestation stuff while perhaps no one in your life ever talks about anything like this, and everybody in your life is fully bought into the illusional world of scarcity and everything, and you just have to go fully and totally on faith. I mean, it really helps to see something in front of you change. So I'm not going to say I hope you do. I know you will with me, with this. This isn't a question anymore. This is just a matter of, how long am I going to fuck around in the world of scarcity? How long am I going to continue to buy into the drama of the outer world? A lot of this money-making stuff is a big game for me, and it's fun. And, it's no coincidence to me. Last February, when I was doing my taxes, I looked at my finances and I said, it would be insane for me to ever stress out about money again. And immediately, within a month, I found a way to stress out about money again, because the stressing out about money thing is a fun game for me. It's a drama that I enjoy on some level. How long am I going to continue to play in this world of illusion with this romantic theme and this weight theme and this business theme? At some point, I think it's going to just be time for me to completely break out of it. That's been coming. I feel that coming. I don't know. We'll see how that manifests, I guess. But I'm making a video every day this year, and they're getting longer and longer and longer every day. Yeah. So we'll see what happens. We'll observe what happens. We'll see if Maggie can get out of her own way. We'll see if Maggie really wants anything to be any different. Because what you're seeing is, at any given time, is pretty much exactly how I want it to be. I'm convinced of that. I think when you start looking at things that way, you can start to see that it's true. Why do I want my life to be this way? Including this condition that I don't like, this circumstance that is unpleasant. Anyway, I'm going to leave that there. I was going to make 2 videos today, or 3 or more, but yeah. Not going to happen after the 49-minute video I just made. Have a great day.